Hey guys, welcome back. So I'll be talking about how to stop distro hopping in just 3 simple steps. So the first step is to find the distro that works best. Now, I know that the title may seem kind of confusing, may seem kind of unintuitive, but what I basically mean by this is take a look at your hardware first and see what kind of support it has for Linux. Because if you're using a laptop, for example, and if you have problems with the Wi-Fi, then perhaps you're using an older kernel, or maybe you're using a distribution that just offers an older kernel. So you might have to try something that's Arch based, for example. So first of all, take a look based off of your past experiences, take a look at which distribution has offered the most stable and smooth experience with Linux. I think that this is very important. Before you take a look at anything else, first see what offers the best experience basically for your system. And if your system just has trouble with Linux in general, then perhaps the best thing to do at that point is change the hardware and do some research. And before buying a system that like a laptop, for example, do your research and see if it fully, or mostly at least, supports Linux. Now for the second one, I think that this is actually very important, and I think that this is one of the bigger reasons why people distro hop, at least the beginners, in my opinion, is first, I think you should choose which desktop environment or window manager you want. Now, you can stop distro hopping and still end up desktop environment hopping or window manager hopping, and that's going to be a topic for another video. But I think that having some sort of idea in mind is important, because not every distribution offers what you're looking for. And that's why if you have something in mind, then you should take a look at that first, because there's no point in looking for a distribution that you want before choosing a desktop environment. Say if you want a specific desktop environment, like the deepened desktop environment, not a lot of distributions offer it. So you do have to kind of think about that first, because really when you think about it, despite the fact that behind the scenes the distribution may be different, what you're going to be working with and looking at for the most part, the desktop environment or window manager, that's what's really going to matter, in my opinion, because that's what you're going to be working with most of the time. So first, try to choose something, or at least, even if it's not just one, just choose your favorite ones, and then look for distributions that offer the desktop environment that you want. And for the third step, I think that finding which base you prefer is really important. And this is actually what helped me stop distro hopping. I think that once you first see what offers, or at least based off of your past experiences, once you see what offers the most stable experience, and once you find which desktop environment or window manager works best for you, or one that you prefer the most, I think that the most important thing to do is choose basically between Debian or Arch-based systems, or perhaps something else like Solus, for example. But choose which one you prefer and just stick with it. Once you've made your choice, just stick with it. Because if you just choose Arch, for example, well, your choices really become a lot smaller at that point. And I think that you really should write down what you're looking for in a system to begin with. Like, write down the attributes, write down whether security matters to you or stability, or write down whether you want something that's more bleeding edge and you want something that's more up to date. Those are really one of the main differences between Debian and Arch-based systems, are really when it comes to stability, and when it also comes to, well, Arch can be stable as well, but when you just have newer packages and more updates, then the chances of something breaking is going to be more likely. So write down the pros and cons and really think about what you prefer. And if you pick something that's Arch, it's going to be easy. You can choose to go with Arch itself, or if you want something that has an installer, something's easier to use, then you can go with Manjaro or Arco Linux or something like that. And then when it comes to Debian based, you can use Debian itself, or you could just use Ubuntu. It's simple because Ubuntu offers, not only is it very stable, but it also offers basically all of the desktop environment. So at that point, you don't really have to worry about anything. Or you could use Linux Mint, or maybe even Elementary OS. See, now the main differences between those are the main desktop environments. Linux Mint's flagship is the Cinnamon desktop environment. Same thing with Elementary OS. Its main thing is the Pantheon desktop. Because when you think about it, if Linux Mint, Elementary OS, and Ubuntu all use GNOME, then the difference would be certainly smaller. I mean, when it comes to basically the packages and whatnot, it's just sure. Some distributions offer their own kind of tools, and like Elementary OS, it's its own app store and whatnot. So you have to really think about what matters the most. That's why it's good and important to write this down. What matters to you the most? What do you care about the most? And just take a look at that, and it's going to really help you make a much more informed decision. And also, when it comes to packages, I remember when I was still a beginner, I hated downloading stuff or installing stuff on my system when I used Debian-based systems because of the whole PPAs and all that type of stuff. And I just found that the Arch user repository and PAMAX specifically, the package manager, I really like it, really help organize things. But you also have to take into consideration, using these extra community maintained packages, you also have to take security into consideration if that's important. So take all that type of stuff into consideration. And really, once you've done that, it's going to boil down to a small set of choices. And in my opinion, like I said, this desktop environments matter more than one might think. And so that's why I think it's important to follow those steps in that order, because once you've chosen which desktop environment you want to use the most, then you can take a look at which desktop environments offer that desktop, or which distributions offer that desktop environment, and just go with the ones that are the most popular, honestly. There's no point in going for random underground distributions that not a lot of people use and that are derivatives of a derivative, So there's just no point. And so once you do that, you can make your choice. And at that point, there's just no point in distro hopping. I mean, in my opinion, unless you find that your experience becomes less and less stable over time, or you end up searching for a different type of desktop environment or window manager, whatever. At that point, you can distro hop, but until then, there's really no point to distro hop. And in my opinion, it truly is a waste of time. And it took me 6 months to finally stop distro hopping. And I've chosen Manjaro, and I've stuck with it because it just simply works. And the experience is very smooth and stable for me. So that's why I'm sticking with it. And I have absolutely no desire to distro hop anymore. So really think about it. And if you have any questions or comments or whatever, just comment down and I can try and help you with that. But yeah, that was basically it. Hopefully this was helpful. And yeah, thanks for watching.